All right, today we're jumping into a huge topic, the future of artificial intelligence. I mean, we are talking about a world that could be so radically different from ours, it's almost impossible to picture. So, is AI going to unlock a global paradise for all of us, or is it the start of our downfall? Let's get into
So let's kick things off with this, well, wild claim from Elon Musk. And you gotta understand, he's not just talking about everyone getting a little bit richer. He's imagining a future with so much abundance that our whole idea of what it means to be wealthy just goes away. This is the bedrock of the utopian dream of AI.
Okay, so what does that actually feel like? A world with universal wealth. Musk thinks that in maybe 10 or 20 years, the whole concept of needing a job to survive could just vanish. Work would become something you choose to do, for fun or fulfillment, not because you have to pay the bills. And that idea of work being optional, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. So let's really dig in and try to imagine what this AI-powered, post-scarcity world would be like, at least according to the optimists.
You see, this whole vision is about completely rewriting the rules of human civilization. We're talking about a world where the basic limits we've lived with forever just don't exist anymore. Superhuman healthcare for every single person. Entertainment so immersive it makes today's video games look like checkers. Access to pretty much anything you could want. And yeah, in a world like that, why would you even need money?
So what's the big domino that has to fall for all this to happen? What's the technological leap that could trigger a change this massive? Well, the idea has a name, and it's a concept that's both incredibly exciting and honestly a little bit scary. The singularity.
The key phrase here, the one that should really give you pause, is beyond human control. See, the singularity isn't just about getting faster computers. It's this theoretical point where change happens so fast and is so profound that the future becomes fundamentally unknowable to us. It would be a complete break from all of human history.
So how do we get there? Well, the engine behind the singularity is this really powerful feedback loop. Just imagine this. We create an AI that's smarter than any human. What's the very first thing it does? It designs an AI that's even smarter than it is. And then that new AI designs an even smarter one, and on it goes. Each step gets faster and faster, leading to this runaway intelligence explosion.
And look, this isn't some science fiction fantasy set 1,000 years from now. The famous futurist Ray Kurzweil actually put a date on it. He looked at the trends in computing power and made a prediction that the singularity could happen as soon as 2045. But here's where we need to pump the brakes a little bit, because this isn't the first time humanity has been on the edge of a technology that promised to change everything. And to really get a handle on the risks we're facing now, we have to look back. We have to look at a powerful lesson from our own history.
The Industrial Revolution, it gave us the modern world, no doubt. It created unbelievable wealth and amazing new technologies, but that progress came with a heavy price. Skilled craftsmen had their lives turned upside down, cities were chaotic, working conditions were often brutal. It took decades of struggle, of people fighting for their rights, creating unions, demanding new laws and education, before society finally learned how to manage that change and share the benefits a bit more fairly.
And that right there, that's the ghost that haunts this whole conversation about AI. Just like the steam engine, AI promises incredible things. But that lesson from history forces us to ask a really tough, really important question about this new revolution.
This is the whole ballgame right here. It all boils down to one single, incredibly important question. If AI and robots are doing all the work, who owns them? Who controls these powerful new tools? Because the answer to that one question decides everything.
Depending on how we answer that question, we are staring down two completely different paths. On one side, you have that post-scarcity utopia we talked about, where this incredible new wealth is shared by everyone. But on the other side, you get something pretty dark. Some people call it techno-feudalism, a future where a tiny handful of people own the AI, and the rest of us become, well, economically useless, totally dependent on the charity of a new super-rich ruling class.
And let's be real, if we just let things happen without a plan, the default path leads straight toward that dystopia. The risks are huge, and they look a lot like the worst parts of the Industrial Revolution. Mass unemployment, an insane gap between the rich and poor, and maybe worst of all, building AI systems that accidentally bake in all of our own biases and prejudices.
So, this brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation. The future here isn't set in stone. It's not about what the technology will do, it's about what we decide to do with it. The outcome is a human choice, not a technological one.
Okay, we've seen the two paths. We've seen the beautiful dream and the pretty scary nightmare.
So the question is, what's the plan? How do we actively steer this incredible technology toward the good future and away from the bad one?
The good news is, smart people are already working on this. They're trying to figure out new rules for this new game. One idea you hear about is something called the windfall clause, which is basically a way to make sure that when some AI breakthrough creates $1 trillion out of thin air, that wealth gets spread around to help everyone, not just locked up by a few shareholders.
And this quote from Forbes just nails it, doesn't it? It can feel like technology is this unstoppable force of nature, but it's not. We get to have a say. We get to decide what we're okay with, what we need to push back on, and what parts of our society we need to change. The future is up to us.
So what might those guiding rules look like? Well, groups like the National Institutes of Health have already sketched out a pretty solid blueprint. First, beneficence. AI has to be for the good of everyone. Simple as that. Second, value upholding. It needs to reflect our best values, not our worst. Third, lucidity. It can't be a mysterious black box. We have to be able to understand how it works. And maybe the most important of all, accountability. The people who build these things are responsible for what they do in the world.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. We're spending billions of dollars and countless hours trying to build artificial intelligence. But maybe the biggest challenge of our time isn't about making our machines smarter. Maybe it's about whether we can become wise enough to handle them. Are we?